Hi, everyone. You are listening to a special edition of Bonnie Albers on Air. I am so excited, so jazzed to bring you my next guest. I just cannot tell you how excited I am to introduce you if you don't know him. I don't know how you couldn't because he's super famous. He is the psychic lawyer Mark Anthony. I'm going to put him in just a second, but I want to tell you a little about him and why he's so super cool. And I just love every gift he rocks. Mark is the psychic lawyer. He's also a practicing medium. I mean, how about that? Who not only communicates with spirits, he is also a successful attorney. And that in itself intrigues me to no end. I love that he's an attorney because I love that the attorney, the medium, and the author you're going to get to know here in just a second. He's licensed to practice law in Florida, Washington, D.C., and before the United States Supreme Court. Mark graduated from Mercer Law School with honors, well, of course, Mark, which included the study of law at Oxford University in England. Well, what I love about that is the next line. He has also studied mediumship in England at the Arthur Findlay College for the Advancement of Psychic Science. I really love that school. In fact, I always swear I'm from there, and I always call it Hogwarts. But it is a very old, very prestigious, and just the most professional college you've ever been to. I have plenty of friends who have studied there. Mark Anthony also is the published author of the bestseller, and I love this book, Never Letting Go, Healing Grief from the Other Side. And he is now he has a new book out called Evidence of Eternity. That will blow your mind. This book is super cool. It combines science and metaphysics. It combines everything you want to know, and it has a whole lot of secrets in between. This book is so interesting. It bridges the gap between spiritual and scientific. So I am not going to keep you from him any longer. I'd like to introduce you to Mark Anthony. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Bonnie. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hi. I am so excited. This is the second time you're on the show, and I just think you rock the doors off of metaphysics and science and law. So I am so happy to have you here, and I know we're going to be talking about your new book, Evidence of Eternity. I heard, Mark, that you've already gone into the second publication on this book. So please tell everybody, one, how they can get a hold of it, and tell us about that.
Evidence of Eternity is on sale worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it at all fine bookstores like Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all independently owned bookstores. It's on sale online at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, the publisher Llewellyn.com, and I understand it's also on eBay. So I guess I have arrived.
Yeah, or you know what? When it sells for $1,000, you let me know, and then we're really going to amp up the show.
And it was released on March 9th, and by St. Patrick's Day, by March 17th, the publisher Llewellyn Worldwide had completely sold out, and it has already gone to a second printing. Amazon sold out of it in basically a week. Amazon will actually be fully restocked on Evidence of Eternity tomorrow, March 29th, and it's getting great reviews, not just on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but the Hollywood Times has a review coming out of it. It's been in Infinity Magazine. It made the cover of Leading Edge Review. It's already Book of the Month for BookReview.com, and I understand a lot more reviews are coming. So it has really been just amazing, and you know, Bonnie, I have to say very humbling. You know, I put my heart and soul into writing.
Yes, you did.
And to see how people are just being touched by it is very, very, very humbling.
Well, you know, Mark, I can tell you that I read the book, of course, and I what you put in the book, which I'm not going to give away a whole lot of secrets about it because I think everybody out there needs to get the book. It's really inexpensive when you're looking at books. It's so inexpensive, but it is so like new. It's new teachings. You've come up with a new language even in this book, and everybody has. I'm blown away by it. So please, everybody, you also would like them if when you read it, or if anybody has read it. I know I have put one on, but go ahead and give. Amazon has where you put in, stars and you review the book. Please do that because your voice will be heard, and any breakthrough in metaphysics, Mark, we need. So the reason I think this book has done so well, and you've done so well, not because you're just a great writer and a fabulous attorney and great person and wonderful medium, but because it's time. You know what I'm saying? It's time for this to come out.
I wanted to do something different from what every other medium out there is doing, and I'm not in any way criticizing my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much everybody's using the same terminology, and they're essentially saying the same things. What I wanted to do, and what I hope I have done, is bridge the gap between the metaphysical and the mainstream. Explain how spirit communication works in a logical and scientific basis. It's not hocus pocus, woohoo, or magic. There is a delivery system, if you will,
yes,
or how spirit communication happens, what happens when we die. There is a rational explanation for everything, and so I call it evidence. I titled it "Evidence of Eternity" because that's what it is. It's explaining the other side, what happens when we die, what is the nature of spirit communication. And I developed new terms and concepts.
I love them
to describe this, and I appreciate that, and especially coming from you, Bonnie, because you are a practitioner
mm-hmm.
in the psychic field.
Thank you.
And so it's written not just for anybody who wants to know about the afterlife, but it's also written for the psychic and the metaphysical practitioner, and it's also written for anybody who likes a good story or good stories.
Absolutely.
Because nothing. Well, I remember being in law school and having to read cases, and it was so excruciating when we were reading about like the Uniform Commercial Code. It's like reading an algebra textbook.
Yes.
It's just not exciting. And the cases that I like to read about were all the criminal law and the constitutional cases. And,
mm-hmm.
and I remember in my contracts class, one of the cases I enjoyed analyzing, it was called 20th Century Fox versus Burton and Taylor. And I'm like, Burton and Taylor, I'm reading it, and it was about the movie Cleopatra that Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were in, like, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, something like that.
Yes.
And how they got so drunk during the filming of the movie that when they would show up the next morning, they were, as the case said, in an unphotographable condition. And I was cracking up reading that, but then it wasn't so funny when you realize that 20th Century Fox, when the two major stars of the film couldn't be photographed, how much money that was costing them on a daily basis. So you're taking a breach of contract and a financial, obligation, and now turning it into a story that was engaging. So when I explain the technical concepts of science and theoretical physics and human physiology and the theological background
mm-hmm.
behind many different schools of thought in understanding God and the afterlife, I wanted to illustrate it with real stories about real people so that the reader can relate to it.
You did a great job, Mark. I've got to tell you, there are some key phrases in here. I don't want to jump the gun here, but there are some key phrases in here that have just blown my mind. One, you're going to use this language anyway, but when I read you brought me to my knees on certain, and I really understand you don't want to get too far into the book because it is so interesting. You want people to read it for themselves and actually get the feeling I got when I read it. But one of the terms you use, and I want you to go into this because I love this, is interdimensional communication. Because when people,
Oh, sure.
I love that. So please explain why you use it and how you came up with it.
I've been studying. I've been studying God and studying the afterlife for my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I went to law school, I had seriously considered going into the clergy. And being raised Catholic, I'd considered being a Catholic priest at some point. But then I found that the dogmatic restrictions of organized religions were just too heavy. You can't believe this, you can't do this, you can't say this, you can't. And there's too many restrictions. And in my study of God, and I've traveled all over the world and come into contact with all types of cultures and different philosophies on God and on the afterlife, God has no restrictions. Human beings are finite, and everything we know has limitations and restrictions, so we tend to put those on the infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my study of mediumship and growing up in a family of psychically gifted people, I found that a lot of the terminology that we use was coined in the Victorian era. And that coincides with the rise of spiritualism in the 1850s and 60s in
Yes.
Britain and in the United States. And in terms like mediumship and clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience, which are explaining the different aspects of the sixth sense
Mm-hmm.
and the understanding and the science, if you will, seems to have kind of dead-ended at or around the year 1900. And think of what we know about frequency, energy transfer, and in communications technology between 1900 and 2015. It's literally light years difference. So I
Absolutely.
began to analyze this, and spirits, when a person dies,
Mm-hmm.
your soul, your spirit, I use the two interchangeably, leaves the body. And every great religion teaches us that the soul pre-exists the body and then continues on after the body ceases to function. The second law of thermodynamics in physics teaches us energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. Then I started realizing that the reason that we can all have a mediumistic experience, and that some people are mediums because we're, just tend to be better at this than others, is that we're able to enhance our brainwave frequency. Well, the other side is another dimension, and this is not some woohoo idea.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking string theory. All the great physics theorists since Einstein through Feynman, Tesla, all the way up to Stephen Hawking,
Mm-hmm.
believe that there's not just a universe, but there's multiverses.
Absolutely.
So we're living in yes, exactly, and we're living in the material world. So we are in a finite world. Our body is temporarily housed in a material container, and that's our dimension. Spirits, being pure consciousness, pure energy, are in a different dimension altogether. And so when a medium makes contact with a spirit, or if a spirit reaches out to make contact with a human being, this is interdimensional communication. Their realm and our realm are intersecting. Now let me make it easier. Think of our world, our energy, our frequency as being AM radio,
Mm-hmm.
which is amplitude modulation. And, everybody has AM radio, and in the radio world, AM's kind of like not the deluxe package
Right.
broadcast. Okay?
Right. Yes.
And FM would be the other side. They both use frequency. They both use amplitude. They both use energy, but they're two different universes, if you will, and they run parallel. And then sometimes there's an overlap between AM and FM.
That is so
And
cool. I love this. Go ahead.
and that would be what mediumship, which I coin interdimensional communication, is like.
Yes.
When that dimension, its frequency interfaces with ours. And so that's what's happening in a nutshell in spirit communication. Now, certainly in Evidence of Eternity, I explain it in better detail, and the stories that I use to illustrate it, I believe, make the point uh, much more clear and much more fun to read. It's funny because I've been on a number of shows and they're saying, "Well, tell us about what happened."